At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. You're watching Weather NorCal. This is Coffee with Krueger every weekday morning. It is Tuesday, June 3rd. So glad you could join me here this morning. It was a hot day out there yesterday. We did top out, I think it was 101 degrees out at the Reading Airport yesterday. Definitely a hot day out there yesterday. And I think we've got more of the same going through the week, unfortunately. And I am seeing some minor drops in the temperatures here, even as early as today and tomorrow. But the key word is minor. It's not going to be anything all that significant. So the summer heat has arrived. Now, I am seeing some signs that near the end of next week, we could be talking about the potential for a cool down, and a pretty good one at that. So that's a long way out. That's not even close to being guaranteed at this point, but it's a little bit of hope. It's a little glimmer of hope that we could kind of cool things down a bit. So we got this long stretch of this heat through at least the middle of next week, and I'm seeing the potential of that dropping, getting closer to normal for this time of the year, which is somewhere in the upper 80s at this point now for this time of the year. But we could drop down even a little bit lower than that as well. But another thing that I've got my eyes on too is the potential for afternoon thunderstorms in the mountains, and that would be here sometime toward the end of the weekend and early next week. This is obviously, once we start introducing thunderstorms this time of the year, we've got to watch for that potential for dry lightning strikes. Now, there's still some moisture up there. We're not seeing as many fuels up in many of the higher elevations, especially as you start going up in the highest elevations where, heck, there's still snow up there in some areas. So obviously that's not the biggest concern at this point, but for areas that are drying out in the higher elevations, and if you do see dry lightning strikes, that could obviously be a concern. So that's something we got to keep our eyes on. Well, what do you say we get to our Krueger's Quick Cast here for your Tuesday, June 3rd? It is June 3rd, folks. And you can see temperatures on the mild side. And the winds are picked up a little bit in the Reading Airport. So now we're at 73 degrees. 62 degrees out in Red Bluff, 61 degrees in Chico and Oroville. And you've got those temperatures in the upper 40s off to the east and to the north, and mid 40s on average here for Eureka up to Crescent City. All right, so out the door this morning, we do have the mainly sunny skies. Even the coast, looking at some sunshine out there this morning. Take a look at the camera, for example, this morning. This is out in Elk Country, just north of Trinidad. And it looks like we do have some low clouds trying to kind of hover around there. But otherwise, you do have those clear skies looking off in the distance. So that's essentially what we've got there. Now, we do have this big void of clouds over the eastern Pacific and even parts of the western United States. And that's just a big, broad ridge of high pressure, and it's fairly strong, a fairly strong one for this time of the year. Now, the center of it is over the Pacific Ocean. So we're not getting the full brunt of this heat wave or of this ridge of high pressure. We're on the outer fringes of it. Think of it as a dome, right? When you have a dome. So the top of that dome is where you have the hottest temperatures. As you start going to the outer perimeter parts of that dome, not as hot, but still hot anyway you slice it. So that's essentially what we've got here, is that main dome of high pressure is off to our west, but we're still within that dome. It's just the areas where it's not as hot. So you see the winds have picked up a little bit this morning at the north end of the valley, and that's why Reading is sitting at 72 degrees right now, but calm winds for places like Red Bluff, Chico, and Willows, and we got the fairly calm winds for most of the mountains. But look at Del Norte County out towards Crescent City. We're looking at gusts upwards of 30 miles per hour this morning, so a little gusty out there right now. So let's take a look at our forecast here for today with those winds, and you can see by midday, afternoon, the winds are actually picking up for the valley in particular, and even some of the higher elevations around Mount Shasta, Siskiyou County. We've been seeing a lot of fires popping up, unfortunately, the last week or so in Siskiyou County. I think we saw a couple pop up yesterday. So we don't want to see those winds pick up because for some reason fires are starting there. I don't know if it's most likely probably human caused, but there you can see even a little gusty out towards the east. We've also got some gusty winds out along the coast as well. But check this out. As we go into tonight, tomorrow morning, the winds are getting even stronger. Now, could it be overdoing it? Sure, but I still think we could see some gusts upwards of 25, 30 miles per hour. That's going to elevate that fire risk even more. And that'll probably keep our temperatures up too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We'll have to watch that closely. So for today, upper 90s to about 100 degrees, right? Reading about 197 for Chico, 80s for most of the higher elevations, although some of the higher elevations, like Tennant, for example, Tule Lake, 76, 78 degrees for Aden. Lassen Park, 68 degrees. But otherwise, you're in the 80s to the north and east, right? But then you head out to Trinity County, 90s. Although some of the cooler spots, like Mad River, for example, will be in the 80s. But you can ski Willow Creek and Hoopa. Those are some of the warmer spots, mid-90s there. And in the 60s and even some 70s for the coast. All right, so for tonight, the thing is, with those winds possibly materializing, it may be warmer than 67 degrees for that overnight low in Redding and Cottonwood and even Red Bluff. It may be closer to the low to even mid-70s should those winds materialize. So we'll see what happens there. Otherwise, you got temperatures mainly in the 40s for the higher elevations. Trinity County in the 50s. That's also the case inland and for the coast. So looking at your 7-day forecast, starting off with the valley, it's hot any way you look at it for the next 7 days for Redding, Red Bluff, and Chico. As I mentioned, maybe starting to see some relief after Monday. Temperatures should start to slowly drop after that, but still fairly hot. For the coast, mid-60s, give or take, for the next 7 days. For the inland areas, low to mid-90s for the next 7 days. And for Trinity County, mid to upper 90s to even around 100 by the time we get into Sunday. Notice the word chance in there. Yes, there is that isolated chance for a thunderstorm popping up Sunday, Monday, possibly Tuesday of next week as well. It's also the case for Siskiyou, Modoc County, East Mountain, basically mountains, seeing that potential for afternoon thunderstorms starting Sunday. Now you'll notice here we do have temperatures for Siskiyou County in the low, right around 80 degrees, give or take here. That's also the case for Alturas, Modoc County, for today and tomorrow. They start to increase a little bit here, mid to upper 80s by the time we get into Thursday, Friday, and then low 90s for the weekend. For Susanville, you're in the mid to upper 80s through Thursday, and then low 90s by Friday, mid 90s by Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. All right, let's look at Krueger's Quickcast. That should do it for you, at least for today, so you know what to expect today. And just a quick look at the 7-day forecast. Let's take a look at some of the cameras out there this morning, and you can see Lake Oroville this morning turning out to be a gorgeous, gorgeous start to the day, as we'd expect. There you can see that wind is, well, that streamer was showing, it kind of froze up a little bit on us, but that streamer is, oh, there you can see, kind of moving a little bit, so a very light breeze this morning. Take a look at Main Street, Chico. Looks like you've got the clear skies out there this morning, sunny skies on Highway 99 at Neal Road. No big surprises there. Not much in the way of winds either. Take a look at Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. Unfortunately, this is not a camera that's in motion, so we can't see if the winds are blowing, but they are a little breezy up to the north, out towards the Redding Airport in particular. Unfortunately, that camera is not updating, so we'll take you to the next camera, and there you can see Soda Ridge. This is looking a beautiful shot here. Typically, we can get a nice shot of Mount Shasta, but unfortunately, it's not pointed at Mount Shasta this morning, but still a beautiful shot there nonetheless. And I love this camera. Looking out over Scott Valley in particular, you see Fort Jones off in the distance there and looking absolutely gorgeous. Also wanted to show you again, this is the, I just had a total brain fart, folks. Elk Country, north of Trinidad. There you go. Oh, why was that so hard to remember? It happens. But anyway, you can see the clear skies out there this morning too. So turning out to be a gorgeous, gorgeous start to the day, even along the coast. Well, what do you say we get to our deeper dive forecast? And as we finished up Krueger's Quickcast here, not a whole lot going on, right? So we take a look at, of course, our sponsor, made possible by Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Well, there you have it. Take a look at the temperatures out there right now. Again, those winds have picked up a little bit out in Redding, and that's why we're sitting at 73 degrees at the current hour. There you can see about 62 degrees for Red Bluff, much cooler in Willows at 58, 61 for Oroville. We're in the upper 40s off to the east and to the north, and mid to upper 40s for places like Eureka and Crescent City. So we've got summer-like temperatures the rest of this week into the weekend. I say summer-like because it's officially meteorological summer, but the astronomical summer won't be here until, well, the summer solstice, until June 20th, which, by the way, is also the 2-year anniversary of Weather NorCal. Pretty cool, right? Continued gusty north winds at times. We're going to see that again here. Probably winds picking up this afternoon and especially for tomorrow morning. Possible mountain showers and thunderstorms here starting Sunday into next week. There is going to be a threat, I would say it's a potential threat that is for dry lightning, and then a cooling trend as we take you through next week. A gradual cooling trend, and I don't want you to get fooled by the word cool, because it's not going to be cool by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not as hot. All right, so you can see the broad ridge of high pressure right here. Okay, so that's the big ridge of high pressure. That's going to be the dominant feature all week long. I don't see much change. Temperatures varying a little bit here. In fact, may even see just a minor drop in our temperatures over the next couple of days. Meanwhile, we've got the area of low pressure spinning over Southern California. That'll continue to bring them the threat for thunderstorms there. But with high pressure to our west, low pressure down to our south, that's what's giving us the gusty winds at times and giving us that, unfortunately, high fire weather risk. Fire weather forecast now, you can see, taking a look at the winds, we've got fairly calm. They've died down a little bit here since I last reported out at the Redding Airport, but they've been anywhere from, say, 10 to 15 miles per hour, and that's enough to keep those temperatures up in the low 70s at the Redding Airport this morning. Look at the winds out in Crescent City, 30-mile-an-hour gusts here in the last hour, and there you can see fairly calm winds pretty much everywhere else you go. Take a look at the wind forecast, and you can see the winds are going to be picking up here throughout the day. There you see by the afternoon and evening, we're going to be back up to 20 to 25 miles per hour, especially for the north side of the valley. A little gusty still along the coast. And look at this too. We're seeing those winds picking up even for parts of the mountains out towards Siskiyou County, Modoc County, and Lassen as well. But kind of making its way down into the valley here, you can see now we're getting some stronger winds going into tomorrow morning. 25, 30, 35 mile an hour gusts are not out of the question. Keep in mind, these are gusts, not sustained winds. I'd be willing to say that those sustained winds will be around 10 to 15 miles per hour. And every once in a while, see these short bursts of wind. Those are the gusts that you could see up to these numbers that you see here. So don't go thinking that, oh my gosh, it's going to be 30 miles per hour for several hours. No, that's not the case. So you see those gusts here, and you'll notice that. But that's all it takes sometimes, especially if a fire starts. You get these gusts that can really just spread a fire very quickly. There you can see in the low 20 mile an hour range here for the coast. Now, for Wednesday afternoon, still, the wind's pretty gusty, but probably not as strong. The good news is the winds will die down, at least for the valley, as we go into Thursday morning, but still a little breezy out towards the coast here. And then even for Thursday afternoon, look at that. Finally, we're talking about calmer winds, and the winds are a little bit coming in from the south as well. That may be something that could help as well. So this is the fire weather risk here, and you're also looking at the numbers, which are humidity levels. So we take a look at the color coding to let us know if we're in low, moderate, high, or extreme fire weather risk. And based on the color coding here, orange, that puts us in the high range. Now, you can see here, it's not as bad for the mountains. And look at the humidity levels. We're down into the single digits and low teens for the valley. Obviously much higher humidity along the coast, so we don't have the fire weather risk there. Taking you into 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning, we're already seeing that risk in the moderate category here with that north wind. Remember, I was talking about gusty winds Wednesday morning. So humidity, yes, we're seeing some recovery in the 30% range, but that's still actually fairly dry. We still have that high fire weather risk here for your Wednesday afternoon. But the good news is, by the time we get into your Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon, look at this. I mean, we're barely even getting into the yellow, so we're in the low to moderate fire weather risk here for Thursday. So that is finally nice to see, right? That being said, we still, from this point forward through the fire season, folks, I don't care if I'm even talking about a low fire weather risk. We can never let our guards down when it comes to fires. Even if the winds aren't blowing, fires can still spread very rapidly, especially if you have a lot of dry content, a lot of moisture, a lot of fuel, that is. It can very quickly spread even without those winds sometimes, just not as fast typically. But there you can see in the even the upper teens, low 20% range. So overall, I do expect improving conditions with our fire weather risk. There's your temperature outlook. It is going to be warmer than normal over the western United States, but if we extend this longer, we may see maybe cooler than normal. We'll see. No guarantees on that just yet. But again, high pressure to our west, low pressure down to the south. That rotation around that high going to the low is giving us those breezy north winds. Now, as that low pressure moves on out, we're still going to have lower pressure down to the south here and high pressure to our west. So still a bit breezy for your Wednesday, but by Thursday, this is when the winds will start to subside a bit. And we saw that looking at Futurecast. Going into your Friday, though, that ridge of high pressure eventually will shift off to the east. And this is when we expect hotter temperatures for Saturday, Sunday, and possibly even into Monday as well. That will shift down to the south and east. We'll start to see a gradual drop in our temperatures. This is what we call a trough of low pressure. Now, the cooler air associated with that is still way up to our north, so we're not going to see a massive drop in temperatures, but you will notice it won't be as hot, and we'll see just a gradual drop in our temperatures here going through next week. In fact, you see that on our 10-day trend. There you can see we're seeing that slight drop here over the next few days, right? Remember I was talking about just dropping it by a few degrees. We could drop down to maybe 97 for Reading on Thursday, but then back up to over 100 degrees by the time we get into the weekend, early next week. And then just gradually dropping Thursday of next week, maybe down to about 95 degrees. But as I mentioned, some of the long-range models toward the end of next week want to bring us down to the 80s and possibly even mid-80s at that point too. That could be just below normal for this time of the year. Look at the lake levels. They're still looking very healthy out there. We're still seeing that minor drop out towards Lake Shasta, but minor increases out towards Trinity Lake and Lake Oroville. Lake Oroville still at 100% capacity. Now the wave heights for today, they're still going to be quite high, but the good news is those wave heights should start to drop going into the afternoon on Wednesday. So as a result, for today, there still is that hazardous seas warning through this afternoon. Winds will be from the north at 25 to 30 knots with your waves from the northwest at 12 feet at about 11 seconds. All right, so here's your forecast for today for Trinity County. You got those temperatures from 89 for Burnt Ranch all the way up to 95 for Weaverville, 97 for Douglas City, low 90s for Coffee Creek and Trinity Center. We got those temperatures in the 80s south of Highway 299 with the exception of Hayfork at about 95 degrees, 90 in Ruth and 87 degrees for Wildwood, and yes, maybe even a chance for an afternoon thunderstorm on Sunday and Monday. Redcrest, that is, 78 degrees, Garberville, 88 degrees, and Shelton Cove, about 68 degrees for your daytime high, 66 degrees in Ferndale, 68 in Rio Dell, and 68 degrees in Fortuna. Up north, 71 for Trinidad, 64 degrees for Eureka, and Hoopa, about 95 degrees. Yes, it's still going to be quite hot for those inland areas. Orleans, 87. There you can see the breezy, windy conditions here for Crescent City, Delnor County in particular, seeing some of the stronger winds. Siskiyou County, you can see temperatures for the Highway 96 corridor, the low to mid 80s, low 80s for I-5. Also, that chance for afternoon thunderstorms on Sunday, Monday. Just a chance. We're watching it closely. Temperatures low 80s out towards Scott Valley. Fort Jones about 82. Take you out to the central and eastern Siskiyou County. 78 degrees for Weed. We've got 76 degrees for Tennant. 77 degrees for Tule Lake. And McLeod about 82 degrees. And for Modoc County, 80 degrees for Newell. 80 degrees for Canby. 80 degrees for El Tourist. And 78 degrees in Aden. Just a mild day there, really. 81 degrees out towards Hat Creek, 89 for Montgomery Creek and Paynes Creek, about 91 degrees. And for Lake Almanor and Lassen Park, well, that's where we see some of those cooler temperatures. That chance for afternoon thunderstorms possibly by Sunday and Monday. As we take it down to the south, Paradise, for example, you're topping out at about 87 degrees for that daytime high, 78 degrees in Janesville and 87 degrees in Susanville. Let's take you to Valley neighborhood forecast to the south. And you can see not as hot for places like Gridley at 94, but Los Molinos, you'll get up to about 100 degrees here for today. There's your 7-day forecast for Chico, upper 90s for the most part. But again, that gradual drop maybe down to 95 degrees by Thursday. There's up to the north. Whiskeytown, Lakehead, low to mid 90s there, 98 degrees for the city of Shasta Lake, and really for the most part for city of Shasta Lake down to Cottonwood, anywhere from the upper 90s to about 100 degrees for that daytime high. But looking at that 7-day forecast for Reading, you can see there's just that slight drop in our temperatures here over the next few days, maybe down to 97 degrees on Thursday, and then back up to 100 degrees or higher by the time we do get into Friday, through the weekend, and even into early next week. So it doesn't look like we're really going to see much relief from this heat. anytime soon, folks. So just be prepared for that heat. Get stuff done early in the morning. Drink plenty of water. Right, you know the drill when it's hot outside, and I don't need to really hone in on that. But you get the idea that heat's going to be here for a while. We got Curtis Brown basically saying this morning, good morning, Mike. We'll be looking forward to a potential cooling near the end of next week. For now, staying hydrated, working outside. That is true. Again, if you have to work outside, try to get stuff done early in the morning. I think that sometimes it's hard to maybe wake up early in the morning, but that's kind of the way to do it here. And mowing tips, right? Again, these are just things that I need to mention as part of my duty. I know you probably already know this, but if you've got a lot of if you've got several acres and it's dry and you need to mow the lawn, do it early in the morning when it's still cool and if it's not windy. If it's windy, I don't care if it's still cool, don't mow. Don't even think about it because you can get that spark, it's windy, and that fire can spread very rapidly. So not windy and cool, that's the time that you could consider. But also just be on the lookout for rocks and sparks and the works, right? We all know the drill on that. And of course, if you're towing a trailer, watch the chains, blah, 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 right? So that's it. So yes, we've got that high fire danger today and tomorrow. The good news is we are seeing some relief from that high fire danger by Thursday. But unfortunately, we still can't let our guards down. It's the weekend that's going to be quite hot again. And as Curtis had mentioned, looking forward to the potential, and I like to use the word potential in his post there, of that cooling trend or cooler weather by the end of next week. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning, folks. We have got, like I say, some hot weather to look forward to if that's what you enjoy. Otherwise, we're going to leave you with some cool cameras here. We're going to start with Soda Ridge. Maybe it's pointed at Mount Shasta. Oh, it is. Check it out. It's looking good, my friends. So that's going to do it for us this morning. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early at 6:30 right here on Weather NorCal Coffee with Krueger. Have a great day.
Thank you.